Hello ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here, back again with more collection goodness. This is part 2 of my Dreamcast collection. So just jumping right into it, we've got Mr. Driller! This is also another fun puzzle game where you drill down into the ground with different colors. It's weird, but I had a lot of fun with it, and it's just one of those games that I've never gotten very far into it, but I'll just sit there and play it over and over again, just killing myself because I suck at it immensely. But it's like kind of like Tetris in reverse. The whole goal is to go down as far as possible, but drilling through different colors causes blocks and chains and other things to fall around you. But you also need air because you're underground. It's weird. It's really weird, but it's a lot of fun. And it's available on a bunch of different consoles. So find out if it's available on a console near you and pick it up, because it's a fun little time waster. It really is. Now a game I've never played. Outrigger. It's Outtrigger, so I think it's Outrigger. But it's all one word. So screw you, English language. It's an odd shoot 'em. It's a first-person shooter, but I think there's also a third-person element to it. This was given to me by someone. I've not played it. It looked interesting, but I've just not gotten into it. So, next up are games that I've spent a lot of time on. Phantasy Star Online, Episode 1, Phantasy Star Online, Episode 2, or Version 2, I should say. I've spent a ton of time on these games. I actually played Phantasy Star Online, Version 1, Episode 1, online. Back when it was rife with cheating and exploits and people creating false items and weapons and just all sorts of hacks way back in the day. But I did play it online. Me and a friend of mine played it and made it through the first boss together, and that was a lot of fun. So that was my introduction to MMOs, and what a great introduction it was, even though everyone on the planet was cheating. But it also has a great offline mode, so one of these days I may do an LP of just the offline mode, because it's just the game. The story of an MMO, I guess. But it was a lot of fun. I did show why you can't have an offline mode with an MMO. Because people could cheat all the time. Next up, Power Stone. This was a great game. I remember playing the demo for this as well. This one is a one-on-one fighting game where if you collect 3 stones, you turn into a Super Saiyan version of yourself. In fact, one character is a Super Saiyan. He gets gold hair and everything. This is just one-on-one fighting game. This, Power Stone 2, me and Keelix have played through this game as well. We played through it a long time ago. I've got that up. This is one of those games that I found out was burnt. I bought this on eBay, and I got it, and it was working, and it was fine. I didn't think anything about it until I got a couple of the other burned games, and I noticed there's weird stuff about this game. It's not shiny on the front like some of the other ones are, and it's got a ring of clear nothingness where most of the other games don't. Like the Power Stone 2 logo should be shiny like a CD, and it's not. And so that's when I learned that I spent $30 on a burned copy. And by that time it was too late to do anything. I did report the seller to eBay for selling. Like, I don't mind. You know, if you're going to burn a game, and you're going to say that it's a burned game, and charge accordingly, that's still illegal, but, you know, it's more ethical than saying, oh, it's a legit copy. It's not a legit copy. This was a burned game, and I really hope whoever sold that for $30 goes and dies in a fire. Like, if you're going to pirate, it's really very little to no cost to you. Don't charge people an arm and a leg for it, pretending like it's a real thing. Like, I'm fine if you pirate the game yourself, but don't charge other people claiming it's legit. That's just dick. So yeah, go die in a fire. Next up, Psychic Force 2012. Odd 3D fighting game. I actually had a request from one of my subscribers to just show some gameplay footage of this in the opening for this. That's really my only experience with this game. It's an interesting fighting game where people can control time and fire and ice and that sort of thing. It's weird. Never really got into it. Quake 3 Arena, I've played this a couple of times. I love this game. It is my go-to holiday game, which is really weird. I know I've talked about that before for like Thanksgiving. Every Thanksgiving, I will sit and play this game. I will play a couple of matches for it. Helix and I did it this Thanksgiving. That's what we do. I actually started this with a friend of mine, Sanchez. He came over one Thanksgiving right after I got this game, and we just sat there for hours playing this game. And that's what started that tradition. Because he was a PC gamer up until that point. This is one of the games that actually convinced him to, hey, consoles aren't so bad if you get into the right games. Before that, he was definitely a PC master race gamer, and consoles were just a waste of money and terrible. Everything was watered down. Then he played Quake 3 Arena on the Dreamcast, and this isn't bad. And since then, he's actually been an avid console gamer as well. So, yay for converting with Quake 3 Arena. Next up, this is one of the few games that I bought way back in the day, and I kept the original case for, because I had to. Record of Lodoss War. I'm a huge fan of the anime. The second that they said that they were bringing out a Lodoss War-based game here, I was first in line for it. It's a Diablo-style dungeon crawler, dungeon hack-and-slash type game, where you play as a resurrected character from the anime who has no memory of his past, but you see all of the other characters. You have limited interaction with them because this is not a canon story in the Lodoss War universe. But if you're familiar with the anime at all, and you're a fan of the anime, this game is fantastic. If you're a fan of Diablo-style games, pick this up. It's a lot of fun. And it's one of the few games that I'm keeping the case for this because I'm such a rabid fan of that. Next up, Resident Evil Code Veronica. This was ported to the PS2 and I think the GameCube maybe as well. But I've been told that the Dreamcast version is the best version of it, so I went out and picked this up. I found it for actually fairly cheap, so I'm like, if I'm gonna get any version of it, I'm going to get the Dreamcast version because I love showing the Dreamcast some love. It is one of my favorite systems because it is one of the ones that I actually grew up on. I made sure to buy it, and I didn't really get into the Resident Evil franchise early on, so I didn't have much of a frame of reference for this one, but it's supposed to be really good. So, next up, Shenmue. Trying to find that where it can be seen. This is a really unique game, to say the least. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but not as comical because it's an open sandbox living world. Things change on a day-to-day basis. You can play the story, or you can just live in this world almost. It's crazy. You can collect capsule toys out of vending machines. You can play video games. You can just wander around doing odd jobs. It's an amazing game. Amazing franchise. There's only 2 games. There's supposed to be a 3rd game that will be released, but it's never going to be released because the first 2 games just didn't sell well enough. Because I don't know how to describe it, which means I guarantee you no one knew how to market the game. They couldn't say, oh, it's like Grand Theft Auto because you don't go around beating hookers with baseball bats. That doesn't happen in this game. Because this is much more realistic. It does have combat. You can fight. You can train in martial arts and beat the crap out of people. But it's not like Grand Theft Auto where you go around beating hookers with baseball bats. Totally not what that game is about. Shenmue is much more realistic in that aspect. So, another game that I picked up. I picked this one up a long time ago, and I kept the case for this one for unexplainable reasons. Silver. It's a PC action RPG that was ported to the Dreamcast. Again, I was so hurting for RPGs on the Dreamcast that I picked this up. This one's actually not bad. I liked this one. You get several different types of characters that all have different styles. One of them is an old Asian martial artist guy he looks kind of like Gohan in the very early stages of Dragon Ball Z with the hat, the weird hat with the ball on the top of it. The main character, I forget his name, but you're fighting a sorcerer named Silver, hence the name of the game. It's a very interesting style game. I played through it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But a lot of people, I can see why they would not like it. Next up, Skies of Arcadia. I've already talked about this with the GameCube version. The Dreamcast version is my favorite version of it. I bought this and kept it a long time ago, but I was missing disc 2. I could not find where my disc 2 went. I lost it. So I hunted on eBay for months just finding a disc 2 of Skies of Arcadia so I could have another complete copy of this without having to buy the whole thing again. And I probably should have just bought another whole copy of the game. It didn't cost as much as a whole copy of the game, but it wasn't cheap either. But I'm happy to have the Dreamcast version because it's so much fun playing it with the VMU and then playing the VMU mini games. You can't top that. I will be doing an LP of this one of these days. I promise that, because this is just way too much fun to have sitting on the shelf for too long without picking it up and playing it. Next up, Sonic Adventure. Culex and I did an LP of this. That was actually Culex's idea, and I forget why that was Culex's idea. I have the original copy, and then I actually had to burn a copy halfway through because my copy is dying, and I'm going to have to buy another copy of that game because I kind of want the legit copy of it because I have a legit copy, but it's old. This is the copy I got when I first bought a Dreamcast. I got a Dreamcast for Christmas the year they came out, and I got this and Soul Calibur. That lasted me forever. I went months without buying another game because I played through that. But we did an LP of Sonic Adventure. Go check that out. Not a big fan of the 3D Sonic games, but Sonic Adventure 1 I liked. Sonic Adventure 2 I didn't like. I just thought this was a cash grab, in my opinion. Shadow the Hedgehog, what's the bat's name? Rouge the Bat, who's supposed to look sexy, and all she does is make furries even more confused. Like, no. There's so much no in this game. I can't even begin to express it. Tails drives a mech. Why does Tails? No. A lot of people love this game. I'm not one of them. So I can't see it. I just don't understand why. I think Sonic Adventure 1 was a great step for a 3D Sonic game, especially since it was the first real 3D Sonic game to compete with things like Mario Sunshine and that sort of thing. But I really think Sonic Adventure 2 just took a lot of the fun aspects of Sonic, and that was the beginning of the end of the Sonic franchise for me. Like, I loved Sonic Adventure, I didn't like Sonic Adventure 2, and then it was just downhill after that. Speaking of downhill after that, Sonic Shuffle. You want to play Mario Party but with Sonic characters and an even more dick mechanic system? Play Sonic Shuffle. If you had friends before this game, playing this game with friends will guarantee that you don't have friends afterwards. Because it's easy to dick you over, and then it's easy to really just hate the game after about 20 minutes. Next up, Soul Calibur. This game blew me away. My local arcade had a Soul Calibur. Actually, my local movie theater. My local arcade didn't even have a Soul Calibur machine. My local movie theater had a Soul Calibur machine, and we would play that for hours waiting. Because that's what we did when we were in high school. We went and watched movies all the time because at the time it was fairly cheap, especially for when we would go see movies. And so we'd plug quarters into playing Soul Calibur, and then we got the Dreamcast version, and the Dreamcast version looked better than the arcade version. Like, I will never forget, we went out a couple of days before Christmas to watch a movie, and we spent the first half hour waiting before the movie, because we all showed up in the movie theater kind of early, waiting for everyone else to show up, and we just sat there for a half hour waiting on all of our other friends, and we're playing Soul Calibur, and Mitsurugi looked a little blocky, and then we go home, and 3 of us ended up getting a Dreamcast and Soul Calibur for Christmas that year, and like I remember that morning, one of my friends called me up and said, "Dude, have you played Soul Calibur yet? Mitsurugi looks freaking awesome!" And we just sat there on the phone playing the game. I was on the phone playing the game with a friend who we didn't have it set up online yet, and we're just talking about how awesome this game looked compared to the arcade port. This looked better than the arcade version. I will never forget that. And I became such a badass at this game. All of my friends who ever played this could not beat me at this game, to the point to where it frustrated the bejesus out of them. They would sit there and line up next to me, and it was like, who's next? Well, I'm going to beat Chris this time. No, it never happened. And two of my friends, Sanchez and Kevin, got so pissed off at me that they would not let me walk away from the console. I got so tired of, and I'm still just sitting there beating them. I'm gloating now, but because I can. That was the only fighting game that I was badass at. So I kind of have to gloat a little bit. But a great game. If you have a Dreamcast, get this game. It's worth it. This is, I believe, another burned copy that was given to me. Sword of the Berserk Guts Rage. Because I think this was actually given to me by one of my brother's friends. I have an older brother. He's several years older than me, and I got into anime in high school, and by that point in time, he was already in college. So he had friends who could get stuff all over the place. So they gave me a bunch of bootleg anime, and they said, "Oh, you like anime? You should try this. This is a game based off of an anime. You'd like it." And I'm sure, why not? And it's crazy. You go, it's like your sword is 3 times as big as you are. You're not compensating for anything, I promise. But it's kill everyone and blood everywhere. I'm not familiar with the anime that it's based off of, but the game's pretty fun. So next up, Spawn in the Demon's Hands. I went out and bought this because I was a fan of Spawn at the time. Not as much anymore. But this is a weird 3D beat-em-up, shoot-em-up kind of game. Like, you get weapons. You get 3 weapons. One of them, depending on the character you are, some of them are melee weapons. Some of them are like grenade weapons or mine weapons. Others are automatic or semi-automatic weapons or pistols. But you play through all sorts of different characters in the Spawn mythos. Like, you play as Spawn. One version of Spawn who carries... He's in the Spawn costume, but he's carrying guns. He doesn't use any of the Spawn suit powers. One of them is like medieval Spawn, where he's got a giant battle axe. You can even play as like Twitch, and I forget the other detective's name. The detectives who are always investigating Spawn's actions, and they just carry around pistols and grenades and whatnot. One of my favorite characters was Brimstone, who had a giant double-bladed laser lance and a giant sword. And it's an interesting game. It's really easy to dick you over because it was just not well put together. There's terrible camera and clipping issues, but it's a fun game, and it's probably one of the better licensed comic book games for the time, especially Spawn, because all the other Spawn games I ever played just pissed me off. Next up, Time Stalkers. Again, I was hurting for RPGs. I bought this, and I started playing it, and I hated it. Random dungeons, the characters are all from the it's Landstalker, Time Stalker. So a character from Shining in the Darkness, Pyra is in it. Nigel from Landstalker's in it. But when you exit a dungeon, you go back to level 1. So all the cool stuff that you got in the dungeon that you just went through, you can't use until you re-level. It's just the whole system is overly complicated, needlessly stupid, and just it's time wasting for the sake of trying to stretch the game out longer. I've convinced Helix to do an LP of it one of these days, whenever he's going to get to it before Armageddon is yet to be determined. But avoid this game otherwise. Watch other people play it for comedic value, but if you're going to play it yourself and expect something groundbreaking, you might as well just slit your wrists now. Next up, Vigilante 8 Second Offense. It's like Twisted Metal or Demolition Derby type game, and that's why I got it. Because why not? You can go around as a bus with a rocket launcher on the top. That's all that needs to be said. You can also get a flying car from the future, like one of the Back to the Future cars. It's right there. Hover car. Because we need... Why don't we have flying cars? And why don't we have cars with rockets attached to them? Next up, Virtual On Oratorio Tangram. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that. But this is a sequel to Virtual On that was on the Sega Saturn and the arcades. A lot of new giant robots. Still with the twin stick control system. If you can find a Dreamcast twin stick, pick it up. It's worth it. It just makes the game so much cooler, and the game's already really cool to start off with. Next up, this isn't really a game, but it has a game on it. Web Browser 2.0. It does have Sega Swirl on it, which is why I got it, because Sega Swirl is just an addicting game. Plus, it doesn't hurt to have the web browser should I ever want to hook this up to a modem. No, I got it for Sega Swirl. Next up, Worms Armageddon. I play this game typically on my birthday every year with all of my psychotic comrades. This game is the best Worms game in my opinion. I've had so much fun playing this game over the years. I had a copy and I sold it, and then Culex got it and we started playing it again, and then I had to go out and buy my own copy because I realized I just could not be without this game on a console. There's just no way. It's just way too much fun. And last but not least is Zombie Revenge. This is kind of a spiritual successor to the Streets of Rage games, but instead of beating up thugs, you're beating up zombies, and it was kind of the base of what they were going to do with a 3D Streets of Rage game that never actually came out. But it was an interesting experiment because you had guns that you could shoot, but you could see where it would have gone if it stayed a beat 'em up Streets of Rage title. Kind of a cheap game. Like it has a lot of issues in terms of camera angle and clipping as well. Like they just did not spend enough time polishing it. And I do have a game that I don't have yet, but I will be getting once it's finished. I am the backer of the Pure Solar HD Kickstarter for the Dreamcast. I did go for the Dreamcast Collector's Edition, so I will be putting a picture of that somewhere over here of what I'm... they haven't announced what's coming with it or what type of packaging. I hope it's like one of the Lunar boxes, like one of the oversized CD boxes, but I will have that on my Dreamcast collection as well. But I don't have it yet because it's not out. It probably won't be out until the end of 2013. So... But I'm the backer for it, so I will get it as soon as if and when it does arrive. So I'm very happy about that, because that's going to be an awesome game. And any love on the Dreamcast again, well worth it. So yeah, that was my Dreamcast collection, so I will see you guys in other videos. Till then, later everyone.